Good afternoon, evening, good night, hello, good morning, wherever you are. This is the New York JavaSIG. And we have a really nice presentation for you today. I'm going to admit more people into the room. And with further ado, I want to, before we begin, remind you to become a member and follow us. You can follow us by visiting javasig.com, which you see up there at the top. Although I heard that the website isn't working right now. Javasig.com, keep it in mind and visit it immediately after this message or tomorrow. Neha, will you admit people? Thank you. Okay, good. Or tweet us to New York JavaSig, NYJavaSIG at Twitter. And please become a member. We'd love to have you. Okay, first, before we begin, we want to find out in the chat for this Zoom session, do we have any newcomers? Is there anybody who hasn't been to one of our meetings before? Anybody come from far away? Anybody from distant lands? Just chime in on the Zoom chat and tell us where you're from. South Africa, Indiana. What part of Indiana? Why don't we try something else? Unmute yourselves and maybe start your video so that we can all talk. We've got a Chicago. Sarisha's from Pittsburgh, El Paso, Texas. We've got people from all over. And is anybody brand new, never attended an NYJavaSIG meeting before? Okay, I don't see any responses right away. This is going to be an interactive session. Sarisha will present some material, have you work on some material after she's done a presentation, and you should feel free to chime in anytime, either verbally or in the chat, with questions and discussion. We're not moderating this. We hope you all get involved and make this an interesting and interactive presentation. So what's next here? I want to remind you, we're going to be raffling off JetBrains product licenses toward the end of this meeting. You have to stick around. You have to be present to win. And I put present in quotation marks because it's weird what present means and doesn't mean in the Zoom era. But anyway, you have to be signed on to this meeting in order to win when we do that. And I'll give you more information as we go along. And that's that. Do we have any questions before we begin? Okay, today's presentation, wow, we've got Make IntelliJ Your Own. The presenter is Sarisha Pratha. She works for a financial institution. She's a committer for Eclipse collections and co-leader of the Pittsburgh Java user group. And right now what I'm going to do is pass the baton on to Sarisha.
Thanks a lot, Barry. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. Perfect. Should I start sharing my screen or?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's 2 clicks away to share a screen over here. Okay, that's good. Okay, I think I can get started. That's my cue. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. As Barry mentioned, it's going to be divided into 2 sections. In the first half, we're going to be talking about some of the fundamentals of plugins and plugins, how do you build plugins. And in the second half of the session, we will also be talking about how you can build your first plugin with IntelliJ plugin itself. Especially if you are if you use IntelliJ IDE and have downloaded plugins from the JetBrains Marketplace, by the end of the session, you'll get to see what goes behind the scene, like what goes into making of a plugin. So that's what the agenda is. So for the first half, we're going to be talking about why we want to customize our IDE, what customizations are possible, the different types of plugins that are supported by the IntelliJ platform. I've also written a few IntelliJ plugins to demonstrate over here in this session. And then at this point, I'll also be talking about how you can build your first plugin, and then we'll wrap it up with a few key takeaways from the session. So with that, let me jump into our first section, why we want to customize our IDE. Um, Let me increase my font slightly. Neha, is this okay? Can you all see it okay? I can zoom in
Yep,
further.
Looks
looks
good.
good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. Cool. So let's talk about why we want to customize our IDE, for that matter, anything else, right? I think it's just basic human nature. We see customizations all around us. We have a tendency to customize um, things around us as well. But personally, what I believe is that if you throw a tool at a software developer, our very first instinct would be to change the theme of the tool, change the layout, organize it in a way that we like it. And if you've actually been using the tool a few times, you might also want to add your favorite shortcuts, maybe install add-ons, whatever the tool permits you to do. We want to do this. Basically, we are wired in a way to optimize our interactions, optimize our experiences and interactions with these tools. And we do these for good reasons, right? We do this so it makes us productive. We may do it because it's convenient, or because we're using this tool so often, we want it to be easy on our eyes. We want certain things to stand out. So basically, we want it to be aesthetically more appealing to our preferences, right? So the one such tool that we will be focusing on in this session is IntelliJ IDE. No surprises there. That's the session. That's what the session is all about. Now, how many of you here use IntelliJ IDE? I should have started off with that question. Are there any non-IntelliJ users here? I'm not reading the chat. Oh, okay.
There are quite a lot.
Okay, perfect. And someone also said my number one IDE, and I completely agree with that. And we do this for a reason, right? We use IntelliJ IDE because it helps us speed up the software development process. It helps us stay focused on the business problem that we are trying to solve, and not have to worry about a million things. Especially the mundane activities of our software development process, which is whether it is with syntax checks, code formatting. It also helps us with debugging. It has the IntelliJ IDE itself comes bundled with many other intuitive features. It helps us with refactoring. It provides us a lot of contextual actions as we are in our editor. Now, IntelliJ IDE as it stands is very powerful. It gets our job done. But my pitch here is, what if I told you that the magic need not stop here, right? What if I told you that you can actually extend your IDE, add new features, and create these personalized experiences for you or for your company, or the developer community that you frequently interact with. And if you're sitting there wondering, hey, there are already many plugins out there on the JetBrains Marketplace. Why should I write one? Why should I be investing my time and energy into doing this? Hopefully, in the next section, I can convince you all, and hopefully we can. It'll shed some light on areas where a plugin can really be helpful. So with that, let's move on to the next section. But before I do that, I want to talk about this graph right here. Again, another question for the audience. How many of you feel like this on a day-to-day basis, where you're coding, doing all these different things, but you also spend up a good amount of time context switching? How many of you feel like this? I hope it's not just me.
I think I'm context switching all the time.
Okay.
Let me suggest that people unmute themselves and respond to your questions that way. Victor, I see you're raising your hand. That's okay, good.
Yeah, I thought it was just me, but this pretty much reflects the way I feel.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think I made this up just to illustrate like what I'm trying to get at in this presentation, right? Now, as software developers, we spend a lot of our time in our IDE where we are writing our this piece of software, we are building our application, whatever may be the case, we are in our IDE. But there is no denying that there is a major part of our time which gets spent outside of our IDE, right? Whether it is in our browsers, looking up Stack Overflow issues, researching how a framework works, or maybe even if you're working for a company or otherwise too, you might be frequently interacting with third-party tools. That's like a big amount of that's going to be a big majority of our time that we spend as well. And third-party tools that I'm talking about over here is your ticket tracking systems like Jira, UTrack, whatever may be the case. It could be your CI/CD frameworks. It could be your vulnerability scans, SonarQube integrations. All of these are places where we have to step out of our IDE. And every time we do that, it's a point of distraction in my mind. And when we come back to our IDE, we're sitting there wondering what is it that we were even doing in the first place? Like we're sitting there scratching our heads, figuring out where you left off. And like it takes a few minutes for you to get back into the zone. And now these are the places, these are the areas where a plugin, a custom plugin can actually be really beneficial. And to illustrate this further, I have a few more examples down here. So let's say you're working for a company or otherwise, we do interact with a few libraries or frameworks and with a set of like libraries and frameworks, and most likely and in some cases they might even be unique to you or to your company, so you will not find a plugin ready-made, good to go out in the open source marketplace for you to use it, but you can build one. And again, you might have workflows, you might even have third-party tools that are hosted internally to your company and may not be the ones that you have outside of your company that you're using. You might not find a plugin, again, in the JetBrains Marketplace. So these are all the places where a plugin can actually be really helpful. And what you're really doing by building these plugins is actually bringing in the context of all these interactions that are happening outside of your IDE to your IDE. Yeah, I've said IDE way too many times now. But that's the point. The point of the plugins is that you can actually get quick information. You can interact with third-party tools all from within your IDE, and you're not stepping out, and like which should reduce the number of times you have context switching, the distractions. Now, with that, let's talk about how all of this is even possible. Like how can we build these plugins, and what are some of the customizations that are already possible? So let's see. So before we jump into the section, the first thing that I want to talk about here is, and this was a realization that I had myself when I was first starting to build out plugins, is that the IntelliJ IDE that you're seeing right here in front of you is actually composed of many plugins. Now, what I mean by that is, if you see the Gradle tool window plugin right here, it's actually a plugin. You might also find Maven there. If you've changed your layout, which is possible, then it doesn't matter. It still is a plugin. You also have a few plugins right here at the bottom. There is the Git integration right here. Terminal, SonarLint. SonarLint, of course, is not something that gets bundled with the IntelliJ IDE. It's a third-party plugin. Any of the pop-up menu options that you see right here on top, or the ones that you see when you have, let's say, on your editor, are all examples of plugins again. And you have inspections, themes, code style, key map, you name it, it's all small plugins that live within the IDE's container. Now, how does it work, right? Like, how do we get to the point of actually building a plugin? All of this is possible through the IntelliJ platform. Now with IntelliJ platform, firstly, you write a plugin either in Java or in any of the JVM languages. So you don't even, I'm assuming all of you are Java developers. So in most cases, you don't even have to learn a new language, but you have to learn what the IntelliJ platform itself does. But there are quite a few benefits of using the IntelliJ platform itself. Firstly, you get to leverage all the existing infrastructure. So what do I mean by that? You can, JetBrains in the IntelliJ platform, there are several JetBrains Swing components. So these are basically custom components written on top of Swing. So you can see that if you wanted to, let's say, use this particular component, you can do so in your plugin. And that's all out of the box from the IntelliJ platform itself. And what it really does is that you can actually build plugins that have the same look and feel as the rest of your IDE. So it almost seems like your plugin came bundled with your IntelliJ IDE version. So you can actually create plugins that look like other components in the IDE itself. Similarly, there are many integration points. So if you wanted to quickly create a new a new tool window plugin, you can do this using their existing integration points or extension points. Same goes with pop-up menus. If you wanted to go ahead and add a new action somewhere, you can do so very easily. Meet the So the starting point is now closer to you, or you can say that it's actually much easier for you to get started with plugin development. And they also have what is known as the program structure interface. So in this type, with the program structure interface, what you can do is it can help you with code completion, find usages, file type recognition. All of these features and APIs are already available out of the box, so you can use them in your plugin. And we're going to see some of the plugins that I wrote in the demos, and you can see how I've incorporated some of these things into my plugins. Next up, we're going to talk about the different types of plugins. Now, you don't really need to know that these are the different types of plugins or what they do exactly. But what it has done for me is that it has served as an inspiration for the possibilities of what the IntelliJ platform can support. Back when I started creating plugins, the only type of plugin that I thought was available was the tool integration plugin, or at least that was my focus point. And then when I learned that there were different types of plugins, I was able to explore and write like new types of plugins. So it's good to know what the IntelliJ platform supports. So the first one is tool integration plugins. As the name suggests, you can create tool windows and you can interact with like third-party tools with this type of a plugin. SonarLint is a great example of that. With user interface add-ons, you can basically change the existing UI and add new actions to your editor pop-up menu. All of those are possibilities with this type of a plugin. Custom language support plugin, I think this is probably their most like powerful type of plugin that you can build. With this type of a plugin, what you're looking to do is you can add new inspections, you can add code completion, syntax highlighting, basically features that revolve around supporting a programming language. And I have a demo for this, so we'll see that in the next section. Framework integration is basically being able to bring a specific code inside from the frameworks that you're interacting with. And I think this is extremely helpful if you have frameworks that are unique to you, and they're not out there in the open source world, and there is no plugin. You can actually build some plugins that can actually bring some insight into your applications. And lastly, there is UI themes, of course, everyone's favorite. The platform allows you to build your own custom UI themes, and you can do so pretty easily using this. So I'm going to jump into the demos. Are there any questions so far? I'm not really looking at the chat at the moment.
We'll keep you updated if there's anything comes up.
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
By the way, I want to learn about the UI themes because I really find it hard and I want to customize it.
Okay, that's one thing that I haven't actually explored. I've been getting away with what is already provided, but we
No
can
problem.
talk. We can look into it though. Challenge accepted, I guess.
No
Cool.
problem.
Cool. So let's jump into demos. So now these are, I've got 3 plugins that I built in the past few months. One,
Teresa, we have a question in the chat. Does heavy customization get in the way of upgrading to new versions of IntelliJ?
so if, yeah, I mean, like there is some amount of like compatibility that you will have to check in as the plugin owner or as a plugin, yeah, I guess maintainer even, right? You'll have to make sure that you're not, your changes are compatible with the latest versions of IntelliJ. And you can also give it the minimum version that your plugin can actually be supported. So both of those things are like ongoing maintenance that you will have to do with your plugin. Cool. So as I was saying, I've got demos for one for tool integration, one for user interface add-ons, and one for custom language support plugin. So the very first one is the tool integration one, and the plugin that I wrote was for Stack Overflow. Ah, of course. Okay, so this plugin basically, the goal of it was to look up questions on Stack Overflow, but right from within my IDE. And then you can see right here, I've got 2 search boxes, search by tag, search by title. So I'm going to just do that. Maven, and I'm going to say Java 11. Maybe I should start saying 16 now, right? But so this is what you see. You see some results from Stack Overflow, all available to you here. Just one second. Yeah, all available to you here in this table right here. But more than actually going into the functionality of how this plugin itself works, what I want to focus on is how I was able to incorporate the various components and how I was able to build this plugin itself. So first off, there is this gear icon that you see right here. Because I created this plugin as the tool integration plugin, and I use the tool window as my extension point, I get some things out of the box. I didn't have to write any additional code to make these appear. And you'll see that in other tool windows as well. Right here, you can see them, and you'll see the same in my plugin. You can do that. And there's also the minimize icon. And then similarly, you can see that I've actually reused some of these JetBrains swing components, as I was telling you in the previous section. I was able to use. So this is a search box. If you've used IntelliJ IDE, often you'll probably find this to be a familiar search box. Okay, cool. So you can see that it's the same. Wow. I've got 2 of them open. I never knew that you can open 2 settings box at the same time. Okay, so
You
you
learn something every day, right?
Exactly. I didn't know. I don't know why I would use 2 settings box, but it happened. And I thought for a second there that my screen froze. Okay. Yeah, I want to show you all this. So basically there's this box that you can see here. I basically use the same one right here, and it comes up with like history. It also has some features where you can clear the, the search, the keywords or whatnot, and you can go back and do this.
Can you also sort based on the column? Like if I want to sort based on created on or last updated one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's again a table, a feature just with like that's just like a plain. You can do this even in a Java Swing component, the table component. But what I like about the JetBrains components is that it actually has all this shading that you can do. You can create all these search boxes, for example, that, like, again, like I said, you'll find them elsewhere in your IDE. Again, these 2 icons may seem familiar to most of us because it's the same one that you see right here in the run. And I'm using it basically to fetch results. And here I've got like something to clear all my results, and that's nothing but the reload all from disk icon. So you can use any of these icons that are right here in your plugin. And you can also, No, I don't know. Great, that works as well. And you can also add like some shortcuts and things like that if you wanted to. So that's the Stack Overflow plugin demo. And one last thing before I leave this plugin is I've also got these links right here. So let's say I was interested in figuring out why Gradle isn't working with Java 9 modules. This is the question that I'm interested in, though the answer count is 0. I can simply click on this and it should take me to the browser to the question that I'm interested in. And there is a small utility that you can use to just open up links in your browser. And we will end up using it in the workshop to something similar like this. So that's one thing. Cool. For the second plugin, what I have here is a user interface add-on. For this, I'm going to move over to a different project. Let's see. So I've got this, for example. So for this type of a plugin, what I wanted to do was look up code snippets on GitHub. And the way it works is it's going to show up as an option right here in the editor pop-up menu. But my plugin is smart enough to figure out that it'll only show me the plugin or the option to search GitHub when I have text selected. So I'm going to right click and now you can see there is a new option called search GitHub, which is very similar to what you do with search with Google, but now I'm actually only searching GitHub. So I'm going to search GitHub and you can see that it has all the results and, you can basically do whatever at this point. Now, there's more that we can do over here. Instead of just having the results pop up here, you could also filter this further by programming language. And that is something that we can look at during our workshop time. So if you're going to stay tuned up until that point, you will be building a plugin. You'll be building the exact same plugin and add some bells and whistles to it. Now, so that's the second type of plugin. This is the user interface add-on where I'm changing the UI by adding a new action to the editor pop-up menu. Now, for the third plugin, it's the custom language support plugin. And if you remember, the custom language support plugin is where you can actually do some inspections, code completion, syntax highlighting on anything that you can do for a given programming language. So for that, what I've done is I've created this plugin. And one thing that I was actually looking to explore, and this is a plugin that I've been working on for some time now, which is I'm a committer on Eclipse Collections, which is open source Java collections library. And it has tons and tons of rich and fluent APIs that you can do, that you can use in your day-to-day programming. So one of the things that I was looking to do is convert some of these stream APIs into their equivalent Eclipse Collections APIs. So for example, if you see filter, find first, or else, I want to use the Eclipse Collections equivalent, which is detect. Now, this is basically a type of inspection, which is what I've done here. So I've got an example where it says stream, filter, find first, which if I'm using Eclipse Collections should actually be using detect. And that's exactly what my inspection is doing now. So it says use detect in Eclipse Collections, filter and find first can be replaced with detect. And I can also read more about it. I can read more about this and say it'll be replaced in such and such way. And this is the method change that will happen, and you can read more about this API. And all of this is information that I'm providing as part of my plugin, which the users of the plugin can now read about and also use detect in Eclipse Collections. There you go. So that's the third type of plugin. And I can also do the same with just alt enter, use detect. So this works like any other inspection within your IDE. And I didn't have to write any extra code for it to figure out how to do this alt enter and how all of that. I focus mostly on how to detect these sort of patterns and convert them into Eclipse Collections API. So that's what I focused on. And we can see a little bit more into the code to see how all of this actually comes together in the next section. Cool. So let's talk about your first plugin. Again, Neha will keep me updated if there are any questions on the chat. So I'm going to just jump into your first plugin. Now, we will be reiterating some of these things and during the workshop time as well, but I'm going to quickly walk you through some of these things. Now, there are few moving parts into making of a plugin. And the very first thing is how do you create a new plugin? So you start with project structure. So you just use the new project wizard and you can select new project. And at this point, there should be the new project wizard that shows up. You're going to select Gradle. You'll select the project SDK. I'm going to choose Java, but if you wanted, you could do Kotlin as well. And you're going to select the IntelliJ Platform plugin. Now you need this platform plugin. You need to select this because this is what actually creates all the scaffolding that you need. So basically all the configuration files, the Gradle plugin related configuration files are all created, and it also creates like a nice package structure by using this plugin. And you could get away but by not selecting this as well. It's just that you would have to manually go and add all of that. So you have a plugin to do it, why not?
Is there a minimum Java version that we should be using? Like, or you recommend using 11?
Yeah, the maximum in fact is 11. So that's one thing that we should realize. So
okay.
yeah, definitely 8 and 11 work. I haven't tried anything lower than 8. Thank goodness. But yeah, 11 and 11 is their maximum version at this point. So
okay,
cool. So you do next and you give it a name. You do and you give it artifact coordinates like you would for any other project. And you're going to say finish. And this should basically open up a new project. In mine I think is selected to open up in a new window, so that's what it did. And it's going to basically set up Gradle. It's going to set up all the IntelliJ plugin tasks, all the settings.gradle file, build.gradle file, and also the plugin.xml file. And we'll come back to this. This build is going to fail, and we'll talk more about it in the workshop. This task is going to fail, but don't worry about it. There is a bug in the Gradle IntelliJ plugin, as luck would have had it. But more importantly, what this really does is it actually sets up all of these files. So let's look into the first file, which is the build.gradle file. So let's look into that. What it does is it actually creates a section for plugins. And the most important one right here is the Gradle IntelliJ plugin. Now, what this plugin does is that it actually helps you build, test, and even publish your plugin. And you'll find all these tasks right here. This is still doing its thing, but I can show you in my existing project.
Sirisha, I have one more question, and this is just my question. So is there any specific version of IntelliJ that we should be using? Because I see your version is 2020.33 and my version is 2021. Will that cause a problem or should be okay?
Yeah, it should be fine. It should be fine.
Okay.
In fact, if you're using APIs that are not compatible with a certain version, you will see errors on your IDE.
Got it.
You will be prompted of it. And I think there is the plugin run plugin verifier too, which I think helps you check. Yeah, there you go. So it also helps you check. Can you still see the tasks right here?
Yep,
okay.
I can see.
Okay, so it basically helps you check if your binary is compatible with specific, IntelliJ IDE builds and stuff like that. But what the Gradle IntelliJ plugin does is that it actually creates all these tasks for you. Like I said, you can actually build, you can run IDE task is what will you be using primarily for testing your plugin. And you can also publish your plugin. And there are also, again, several other tasks that you can run, which is all, again, part of the Gradle IntelliJ plugin. So you'll need to add that, which gets added by default by just using that plugin. And then I'm only going to focus on the IntelliJ parts of these files. So the next thing about the build or Gradle file is a section called patch plugin XML. So this is where you'll see, this is where you're going to add your release notes and change notes. And we'll see just in just a second how all of these pieces of information from build.gradle file and other configuration files, all of them come together. So just remember that the change nodes information is coming from the build.gradle file. And we'll come back to this in a second. So the next file that we would be looking at is the plugin.xml file. This is the most important file for plugin configurations. So let me go back here. So what this is somewhat like, this is basically the entry point to your plugin. So it describes the what and the how of your plugin. So the what being, you give it a description. So you'll enter a meaningful description right here to say what your plugin will do. And then you also give it an ID, the name of the plugin, and also vendor information. And again, all of this information is actually, it actually all comes back into the, when you're about to download a plugin, and we'll see that right now. So for example, if I go to plugins, you can see that I have the Stack Overflow demo plugin that I created, which I've already installed in my IDE. So you can see that the vendor information is SP. Uh, and you can see the change notes are right here. And this is my description of the plugin. And you'll see that if I just did this, you'll see all of my plugins that I built out. And you can see all these different.
Do you have to publish it somewhere, or you can just
No.
use it locally? This is all local.
Yeah, this is all local.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't have to publish it to a repository. I was able to install it from just looking at a local artifactory. So I'm going to show how we can do that. So at this point, I'm going to jump back into my project, because that is where some of this information is already filled out. So we don't have to necessarily, look at the one that the demo project was showing us. So for the first one, let's see the tool integration plugin. I'm going to start with that. And under resources, you'll see plugin.xml. So this is exactly what we were looking at earlier on. And you can see that this information is now filled out. So ID, name, vendor information, description, and it depends. So the next part is going to be the how, right? So you're going to have a section for depends. Now, every plugin needs to depend at a minimum on modules.platform. So basically what you get out of this is you get all the shared functionality from whatever is part of this IDE platform. And you can see that information right here in this link. So these are all the different modules. So if you wanted all the functionality for messaging, all the UI components, any of the files, manipulation, documents, actions, the different extension points. So all of this is basically what you get out of adding just that depends. And they have this little information right here. All plugins should declare a dependency to indicate the dependency on the shared functionality. So everyone needs to add this at a minimum, and we'll see what else can you add in here in a different plugin. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, Sirisha. There's a question from the audience. Can you publish plugins?
We can, yeah. That's how they get published to the JetBrains Marketplace.
Thank you.
Yep. And you can use that task right here, publish plugin. To be full disclosure, I haven't published any plugin that I wrote to the JetBrains Marketplace. I've got custom repositories where I publish my plugins, but I don't use these, the JetBrains Marketplace to publish plugin. But there is that option. And in their GitHub Gradle IntelliJ plugin repository, you can actually read more about what goes into a publish plugin task, what you will need to add as configuration. But yes, you can do that.
There's another question. Who decides if your plugin is for community version or the paid version? I guess that's IntelliJ?
It's not IntelliJ. It's actually, I believe, okay, I guess what it'll be is it's going to come up over here. So if you say the version that you're going to have is IU or IC. I think that is IntelliJ Community or IntelliJ Ultimate. That's what the plugin is going to be compatible with. If you don't give it anything, then it will be compatible with both your IntelliJ and whatever the community or with the Ultimate edition. So you figure it out. As in you as a plugin owner will determine that. So for example, community, yeah, there you go. If you have this acceptable values, you can actually give it the different IntelliJ version attributes. So the values may be IC, IU, right. I've actually, all of the plugins that I built were always like compatible with both. So I haven't actually looked into this further, but I can come back. Maybe during the workshop time, I can research a bit more and see what is the version that it will be, where is that version, where, or what, whether it is the community version or the ultimate version that can be used for your plugin. I'll look into that and I'll come back to you during the workshop time. Yeah. Is can I continue, Neha?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I don't remember where I was. Let's see. I think we were talking about, we were talking about extensions. So that's where we are. So for extensions, like I was saying in like 2 sections ago, basically with the platform, you have like various integration points. So for a tool integration type of plugin, the extension point that you'll be using is tool window. For a different type of a plugin, so based on the use case of your plugin, the extension points will change. Each extension point will have some sort of an entry point, which is where you will start implementing the functionality of what your plugin is going to do. For example, in this case, I've got the tool window factory class right here, and you'll see that it actually implements tool window factory. And this is sort of like its main class, so to speak. For a different type of a plugin, let's say for a custom language support plugin, again, going back to the plugin.xml file, what we can do here is that the extension here is local inspection. So for the tool integration one, we used tool window. For the custom language support plugin, I'm using local inspection. And you can see that this too has an entry point and several other attributes which you need to fill out. So for example, this inspection is enabled by default. This inspection has a level of error. I think when I installed the plugin, it was warning. Basically, these are all some of the attributes that you can use for configuring a local inspection. And again, this will have a main class, which should extend the abstract-based Java local inspection tool, or depending on the use case, this might change. So for the last one, which is the user interface type of plugin, which is what we'll be building in the next, in our workshop as well, you'll see that I don't have any extensions. All that I have is actions. So each action has an ID, which can be referenced later. And then it's going to also have a class, text, and several other attributes, like what is the description of it, what is the text that you wanted to display. For example, I've got search GitHub, which is exactly what you will see here, and even the icon. And you can also, you'll also have to provide where you want this action item to pop up. So in my case, I wanted it to show up in the editor pop-up menu and, editor pop-up menu, and I wanted it relative to action and after search web. So you can see that it's right after search with Google, which is nothing but the search web action. So that's, I think, let's see, what do I have here? Different types of. Okay, so that covers up until point 5. So how do we actually see that our plugin is actually working and testing? So we are going to use the run IDE task. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that right now because we are going to see this live in the second half of the session. So I'm not going to talk a lot more about it, but run IDE is what we are going to be using, which basically brings up a new IntelliJ IDE. window for you, and with just the plugin that you have created, with just that plugin installed. So you can actually test it out and see that it works as per your expectations. And then lastly, I also want to talk a little bit about the UI inspector. This has been one of my favorite discoveries about plugin development. And what it really does is that if you have UI inspector on, let's see if I have it on. Yeah, I'm going to turn it on. So the minute you turn it on, you can actually control alt click to view component info. So let's say I wanted to use this this particular component. I can actually just do control alt and then click on this, and then it should open up this window which basically tells me what it actually does. What this component is, if I can actually use, so it's using some sort of a combo box action, basically the underlying components which I can actually end up using for you, for your plugin or for my plugin, right? And the same goes with, let's say, if I wanted to see what is this search with Google option, I can actually just do that, control alt click, and I can read more about it. So it says, so the action is basically search web action. So I can see what goes into this. So I can just do search web action, and it should show up because I have it in my class path, and you can see how this works. And this is pretty much what we are doing for the GitHub action as well. So this, the UI inspector has been helpful in, figuring out like the different things that you can do or like add in your plugin, and it definitely helps with your plugin development process as well. So that's that. That's about, yeah. I think we can start with the workshop, Barry. Is that something, do we want to take a small break, or want to check in with others to see if everyone's ready to start with the workshop?
I think we can start. People can take a break
Okay, yeah.
if they like, but we should definitely get into workshop time.
Okay, let's do that then. In fact, for the very first step, it is going to take some time, like just setting up the project, and people can just take a water break or, a restroom break at that time. Okay, so for the workshop, hopefully you all have your IntelliJ IDE in front of you, and you will need a minimum, you'll need either JDK 8 or 11, both of which I know work. So we'll stick to that. Gradle, again, you don't need any prior installation, so we can just get started with the first set of setup steps, and we'll see how it goes. So the goal of this workshop, this hands-on plugin building exercise, would be to build an IntelliJ plugin that will allow us to search GitHub. And we just saw the demo for it. But basically, you will all be writing it. That's probably one of the easiest type of plugin to get started with. So I chose that as our exercise for this workshop. And again, you can actually see how search with Google works. We've already seen this. You can actually select some text, right click, and you can see how it shows up, how it actually returns the results from Google. Not returns the results to your IDE, but it actually opens up that search query in your Google, in whatever is the default browser. So that's really the goal. Are there any questions in what we are trying to do here? Does everyone understand what type of a plugin we are building and what is the goal of our plugin?
Once again, I want to encourage everybody to just unmute yourself and chime in if you have questions. It's more reliable than our having to keep our eyes on the chat.
Sirisha, I just wanted to ask, like, will you share the link of the setup steps before, or will you just go through
We
them?
can just go through. I'm going to leave this section up.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll see how everyone's doing as a group.
That's perfect.
Yeah, let's do them together itself. Yeah.
I already started, like, I was so curious about writing IntelliJ plugin, so I started with just like creating my project.
Perfect, because that is the time-consuming one. So I guess I'm going to take the silence as nobody has any questions, and they understand. Everyone understands what we're going to be doing today. Okay, let's jump into the setup steps. You've already seen some amount of the preview from my from the previous section. So we are going to use the new project wizard to create a new IntelliJ project. You're going to select all these different things. You're going to give it a group ID, artifact ID, and version. And and we'll talk about, there are two gotchas in this, just because of the way the Gradle IntelliJ plugin was released just recently. So there is a bug there. So I just want to call those out. So for the build.gradle file, you'll have to change the plugin version from 1.1.4. I think that's the version you should see when you actually create this project. Change it to 1.1.3. And after you've done this, the second thing that you would have to do is use the explicit assignment syntax in the patch plugin XML section right here. So you want to do change nodes equal to, which will also be missing once when you've created the project. Okay, so let's start with the steps. So I'm hoping like all of this, it's 7:24. I'm going to check in a few minutes. So basically you want to create a new project, and you also want to change these two things just to get your project all built. And by the end of this section, you should have a green build, which it'll automatically run. Or you can just do reload all projects if it's not showing up for you over here. So I'm going to do it with you all. So I've got the demo one here. I'm going to build.gradle, and I'm going to change this to 1.1.3. And I'm
You
going
know
to
what? I think the latest version of IntelliJ has equal to in the change notes.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so it was
Yeah.
why then. Oh, okay, cool.
But the other one was, I corrected it like 1.1.3.
Very good. Very good.
Hmm.
I'm glad, because I would have actually been, I'm actually glad that I stumbled upon this issue first because I wouldn't know what to do until I went to their release notes and saw what was it that they wanted us to change. So I'm glad that I stumbled upon this problem. So again, Neha, since you've already done that, you should actually see this in your Gradle tasks right here as a new project.
Yeah, I see that.
And do you see all the tasks as well underneath this section? You're
Hold
not there
on.
yet, maybe.
No, you know what? I have seen all the tasks. Like you were showing the IntelliJ
Correct.
verify plugin,
Do you see them all?
publish plugin. Yeah, I see them all.
Okay, perfect. That's all. That's a good sign. And you should also see a build tool window at the bottom, which should actually be green.
Yep,
Do you see that? Okay, good.
I was a bit too fast when you were
No.
showing
That's
it.
fine. I'm glad that I was just worried because I hope like there was nothing local to me that I missed.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
I'm actually glad that this is set up correctly. So again, for those who are just starting out again, you're going to change the version number to 1.1.3, and you're going to have change notes as equal to. Apparently, it works fine in the latest, in the more recent versions of IntelliJ, but not so for me. So you may have to do it.
Is the document you're following with the instructions available somewhere, or people are just doing it based on what you flashed on the screen?
At this point, that's the case, Jen. Sorry. I meant to commit this code so people can access it. Do you want me to? I can maybe commit it and send the link.
Well, I created a new Gradle project and it doesn't have the IntelliJ plugin because it's just a Gradle project. So I've obviously missed a step, but of course those instructions are gone now.
Yeah.
Ah, I see the step I missed.
Sorry. I'll leave this up.
Sarisha, if you can really quickly just sweep over that and copy it and paste it in an email to me, then I can post it somewhere while you're talking.
That's a great idea. I can also commit it as we are waiting for. You want me to send it to you?
Yeah, I'll just reply to my email.
Yeah.
You can do that with the whole page or with all the material that you've got, and I'll post it.
Oh,
Whatever you want.
yeah. There's nothing else that you'll need to do other than just these two things. So everything else would have to be hand type.
Gotcha.
could actually put this in the chat.
That's another thing.
I can just do this maybe. It's obviously going to look ugly, but. Okay, so build.gradle file this. So basically you'll have to. Okay, cool. That should look good, right, Barry? You can see that in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
And by the way, if there's something else you want to send us, then you can just take a screenshot and email it to me. We haven't yet reached the plugin.xml file, so don't worry about that. Maranza. Yeah, so I guess like a lot of you have already figured out the new project stuff and have already configured your Gradle and IntelliJ configuration files, the Gradle file at least for now. So I'm going to jump into the plugin.xml file. Is there anyone who needs help with the first two steps? With creating a new project or with even the build.gradle gotchas?
Silence means okay.
I think so. Okay, cool. So I guess everyone's got that ready, and you must see, you should see all the Gradle tasks on your right, and you should see a clean build at the bottom. Cool. So let's jump into the plugin.xml file now, and I'm going to leave this up here. And what you're going to do is ID should be populated automatically. So if you don't want to change it, that's fine. You want to give it a name. You also want to fill in the vendor information. Again, this is all going to be local to your system. So we're not going to publish this plugin or anything like that to JetBrains Marketplace. So just give some pieces of information to each of these fields. So your ID, name, vendor information, and also a description. Yeah. Ideally, you're supposed to give make these sections as meaningful as possible, because if you had actually published this plugin to the JetBrains Marketplace, every user is going to be able to see all of this information. So that is not the case right now, but try your best. And I have a lol moment over here too.
I have a bad habit of naming my plugin as like my first plugin project.
Yeah,
I shouldn't do that.
I think they also recommend that you don't include plugin as like plugin itself in the name.
It didn't say that.
Yeah, it doesn't give you any, it doesn't do any checking, like it doesn't validate against it. But apparently in their published plugin documentation, I read somewhere where they don't want you to say plugin in the name of the plugin, basically.
Someone is saying hello world in the name.
Yeah, sounds good.
My own feeling is that the first time you create a plugin or first time you create anything, it's okay to call it my first whatever. Yeah. You're not going to be using it. It's just a practice.
Yeah, we are not publishing this. We are not doing that, but you will have to deal with it every day. You will have to see it every day. Okay, so I'm assuming everyone's got this part working as well. So we are actually going to jump into the next section. I'm actually surprised. It took us less than 15 minutes to actually get through these steps. So I'm very, very happy. So we're going to go into code implementation. So for code implementation, there's quite a few things that are happening here. So let's start with, we're going to go back again to the plugin.xml file. And we're going to fill in this section right here. In my case, it's lines 19 to 21, but it should be a section called actions. Do you all see that? I hope you can all see it as well, and it's not missing.
Can you increase the font a little bit more to see the screenshot well? Okay, so we are adding the actions first, and then we will add the extensions later on.
Right. So for this type of a plugin, you don't need any extensions.
Okay.
So we're not even going to look at extensions. we are only adding a new action in under the actions section, basically. So what you want to do is you want to start by typing action with the opening tag, or what is this thing called? The less than symbol. You're going to start with action and let the IDE guide you in adding the following attributes. So you're going to add a class, you're going to add an ID, and you're going to add a text. Now, the class is where we are going to implement our main functionality of this, of how this plugin is going to work. So you won't obviously have that already ready. So just make up some package structure and create a class there for now. And in the next section, we are actually going to go ahead and create that class. So it's going to have a class name. You want to give it some ID, and text is what you want it to display as. So if you want to say search GitHub, search with GitHub, or you want to say my first search or hello world. But that's what is going to show up when you right click and select some text, and you can see that in the editor pop-up menu. So that's this text. Let me know when that is done. We can move to the next section. So for your actions class name, it's going to be some sort of org dot something, like create some package structure for now. Just do like IntelliJ dot your name and actions or something, whatever practices you have.
So it's interesting. I guess the context menu would let you create that class that you type in.
Yeah. Sorry, repeat that again.
Well, the context, I guess I've typed in a package structure with a main class, and the context menu shows up that it could create that class for me if I wanted it to.
Oh my God, please do that. Yes, that's why I wanted you to start with plugin.xml file. So it actually helps you out with all those contextual actions. Yeah. Okay, we are using IDE to its best of its ability, right? Yeah, please go ahead and create that class. And you should also, when you've created the class, it should say that it should extend something. Did it say that?
Yeah, extends an action.
Okay, so you want to change it to dumb-aware action instead.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all that you want to do. And at this point, you can actually implement the methods that it will actually prompt you to do, which is action performed. And it should take action event as a parameter.
Yep. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Eric. Yeah, that was good to know that you can do that. Neha and some others, like, have you reached that stage?
So I didn't get that default option to create a class,
I
but
know you'll have to manually do it because I didn't see that option too. So I don't know if Eric's using a different version of IntelliJ.
I'm on 21, and it is an enterprise edition. So
Okay.
maybe
I didn't see it as well, Neha, when I was expecting.
Okay. So this, I'm just filling out the action attribute. So I've created a class.
Okay.
And I need to provide the full class name, like including the package name here.
Exactly, like the fully qualified.
Fully qualified class name, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what's the ID?
ID is something that if you, let's say, wanted to create multiple actions, you can, if you wanted it to be displayed in a certain way, then you can reference it through ID. So ID is like basically a means for it to, for us to reference it later for other actions, or it's a unique ID basically.
Okay.
Yeah, you can basically say just search action, not search action, maybe that's already taken, but something useful and meaningful.
Yeah, I'll say search GitHub.
Yeah, I think that's what I had to in my.
And the text means what is the text that it's gonna show?
Exactly. The text that you'll see for that action.
For the action. Okay, got it.
So these are mandatory attributes. So we have to do this at a minimum. Okay. And you should at this point create an actual class, a Java class, with the package structure that you used in the plugin.xml file. And you also want that Java class to extend DOM-aware action. And it should at that point prompt you to implement methods action performed. Eric, I know you're a little bit ahead, so just give us a few minutes and then we'll all go through the next steps together.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm ahead by luck.
Yeah, IDE did help you out there. Are others also following what we are doing so far?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, cool. Cool. Neha, while you're doing it, I'm going to scroll down a bit and basically show some of the APIs that we'll end up using when we are implementing action performed.
Sure. I've crossed the step where I have to implement the method. I have an empty method now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So this is the part of the platform that you have to sort of know, and it's like learning any other framework, learning any other platform, right? You have to just know that these things exist and they have some amount of documentation. Again, I also use their existing plugins to see how they've done stuff and, look at some of the APIs that they've used. So we're going to look at 4 different things right now. So our goal is eventually to open that URL, right? The GitHub URL with the code search in it. So just give me 1 second. Let's see. Oh, of course I did that. Let's see. It required it. Search GitHub. I obviously lost it in just a second. So our goal is to do this, right? So this is our search URL. And we are providing it the selected text. Yep, I hope that is clear. So this is going to be our GitHub URL, and our query parameter is going to include whatever is the selected text. Now, how do we get the selected text? We're going to use these 3 different APIs to get to the selected text. And I'm going to copy paste all of these. But there is some amount of digging around that you'll have to do, as in populate what the URL is. You'll have to come up with that. I'm not going to, unless someone is stuck with it, I'm not going to paste that here. So you want to do this, you want to do that. Okay, so these 4 things. So the event.get required data, common data keys, basically this common data keys is like a data container. It's a data provider. At any given point, if there is an action event, if you said common data keys.editor, it actually returns the instance of the editor that is in focus. So, and that is very helpful in this scenario because we want to find the selected text in the editor that we're looking at. So this is how you do it. And for each of this, the editor that you get, you can actually find out the carrot model, what you can get the carrot model. And what that really does is it gives you the position of your carrot, like where is the selection really at, and you can actually manipulate it. But in our case, what we really want is to get the selected text out of that carrot model. So these are all the different things. And browser util.browse, if you remember what in the Stack Overflow demo, what it helps us do is it actually opens up the link in the default browser for our IntelliJ IDE. That's all it does. And it's really cool. You don't have to write anything else, like anything more to this. But the URL is what you'll have to figure out from this part here. So I'm not even going to, I'm just going to do this as mutable bag so it's not confusing. Right, so that's the URL we are looking for. So I'm going to paste that as well, but you may have to modify this a bit.
Sirisha, I know you'll already show this, but someone has asked for a starter documentation. If you can share at the end, maybe.
Oh, the starter documentation as in like how to get started with the plugin.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. So what I want to do is like at the end of this workshop, see if anybody has any comments or feedback or information that is missing. I want to add that, and I'll commit the code and I'll make that link available for everyone. But you can find it in. I'll share the link of the GitHub repository by the end of the session. But IntelliJ plugins, like their own documentation is pretty helpful too. I've just condensed and picked out the pieces that will make it even more simple, I guess, for us to get started. But their documentation is pretty good as well. I'm going to leave this up, and I've also pasted all the APIs that we need for in the chat. So let me know if you are stuck or if you need any help.
So there's a question in the chat, says, where do we paste the code? Sarisha, you're muted right now.
Okay. Yeah, so these are the contents of the action performed method. So that's right. So we are implementing that method right now, action performed, and you should see that it has an action event. Do you see that? Either Maranza or Kareem, can you confirm that you see an action event as the method parameter? Very good. So you can use that event and do the following chain of events, right? So you want to start off with getting the editor. You're going to use this, get the editor, instance of the editor, get the caret model, and using the caret model, you're going to get the selected text, which goes into which basically goes into this. So if you actually converted all of these into variables, right? So for example, I guess that isn't really obvious maybe. So I'm right here. I'm going to create a new package. I'm just going to call it. Okay, 1 second. Let's say I'm creating this class. Sorry, please bear with me. I don't want to give away the whole code, so I'm not showing you my actual solution. Search GitHub action, and I'm going to extend my ID. So, and this should basically prompt me to implement methods, which I'm only going to do the action performed. Never mind, got it. Yes, because it is, oh, okay. Okay. But I'm still going to type it out. So I'm going to do, okay, yeah, that happens. And I'm just clearing up. So you want to do e.get required data. You want to get the common data keys. These dot editor. And this should basically give you the editor. And then you're going to say required data. Oh, I should have actually said that. I should have made that editor maybe. It's actually not clear that. Let me fix that right now. Yeah. Kareem, you're good then? Okay, perfect. What about you, Maranza? Did you follow as well? Okay, cool. Maranza, let me know if you need any help. Oh, perfect. Awesome. Okay, and that was helpful too for me to make a note of this. Neha, Eric, if you are already at the point where you reach browser util, let me know.
Yeah, I've typed all that in.
Okay, and you figured out the URL part of it as well?
Well, maybe, I mean, when you say figured it out, maybe I didn't understand the question. I saw your URL, but I don't understand. Am I supposed to go there and look at something? Maybe I missed something.
No, so basically you want to give it that URL, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're passing in the selected text to that URL, right?
Yeah, I have that. I guess, am I supposed to be running something? Maybe I missed that then.
We'll come to that portion. I'm just
Okay.
Yeah.
So the URL the one you have pasted in the chat has some data, like some values like mutable bag and code. This might change. So
Yeah.
we,
Yeah, go for it, Neha. Sorry.
so we use the same URL right now and we'll customize it further.
So yeah, we're going to be using, this is going to be the URL, right? Can you see the chat screen as well? Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, I can.
So you can see that, so the query part of it is what is going to change, right? Because that's going to be your selected text. Instead of mutable bag, that's going to be the input from this selected text. So all that you're going to leave off at the end of this method is browser util.browse and the URL, which is going to also have the selected text.
Okay.
And it should change, right? Like, because we're going to be selecting different text as we're running the action. So that's going to be programmatically determined each time. So you're going to pass in that information to the URL.
I think I got it now.
Okay, perfect. So if everyone's got it, does anyone need time, or should we go ahead and do a few more things? Cool. I'm going to take this silence as a positive news. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the plugin.xml file. And we're going to add a few more things, which are optional attributes, but it's just good to know. If you want to skip this step, you can skip it, but it's fun. We can still do it since we have the time to do it. So the first thing is you're going to add an icon. So they have a lot of icons and you can find them in all icons.java class. If you actually just go ahead and look up this Control-Shift-N, this file name, you can see the catalog, or you can just use this icon if you wanted to. So the first optional attribute that you'll add is an icon. You can also give it a description, which is basically what you will see at the bottom right here in the status bar. When you're focusing on an action, your status bar populates it with the description of the action itself. So that's pretty useful too. And you can also give it a shortcut. So you can give it, like, let's say Control G or something, I don't know, something that is not already taken. You can also create a shortcut right now, like Control Shift Alt G or something. I don't know, maybe that's taken too, but basically find a shortcut that you haven't used before and you can give it here. And this is, again, these are all optional. If you want to do it, you can do it right now. Now is the time. And we can also come back and do this iteratively multiple times. So since we are here, let's just do it. And I'm going to paste this, all icons, whatever. That's right, Karim. Yeah, basically you're passing in the selected text. Yep, that's exactly right. And I've also shared the GitHub icon, or you probably want to use like a magnifying glass or something like that. So let's look at it. If I did all icons.java, oops, not that. Maybe you want to do search icon, maybe search.
So where do we add this icon exactly in the plugins? Can you show that again?
In the plugin.xml file,
Mhm.
again, yeah, you're going back to the action attribute, action section,
Oh, in the action section.
and you're giving it some more, you're just decorating it a bit more, like giving it a few more attributes,
Got it.
like icon description and use shortcut off. So the first three that we added were mandatory. These are all optional. If you don't want to do it, you can skip the step 2 and you can come back and iteratively do this. If everyone is ready, then we can go to the next step. Eric, was that okay for you?
Yeah, either way, I mean, if we're on time, I was curious because you jumped into the icons and then jumped back out. I was just like, what do we put for the icon? Just some name, like
Yeah.
what you've got there. Okay, all icons.vendor. Okay.
Yeah, I pasted that in the thing. If you don't want to go and like find one, but I'm just leaving this as a resource in case for a different plugin. If you wanted to go and find an icon, then you can use this all icons.java. But for now, you can just use the GitHub icon, and I've pasted that in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So it should basically look something like this. I think I'm okay to now show you. So you should basically have the section. Also, I think I just realized that I forgot to include one thing. You would also have to do this in your plugin.xml file. I'm so sorry. There are a few moving parts. You want to also add this in the same action attribute. So you're saying you want it to be added to the editor pop-up menu, and you want it to be available either before or after. Choose a different option if you want. You can do before the search web option or after. If you don't give it anything, see what happens. But you still need to add to the group though. I'm just going to repeat once more for those who may have missed it. In the action section for your plugin.xml file, you're going to add icon, description, and use shortcut off, as we saw. But you're also going to add this last bit, which is add to group, where you'll say group ID is editor pop-up menu. And you can also give it an anchor and say whether you want it after or before search web, which is what I've used for my plugin. But you don't even have to give it and see what happens. It might basically be at the bottom of the editor pop-up menu, I think, if you don't give it anything. So yeah.
What is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean there. What is search web like on your relative to action? Like, what is that? Is that something specific to your plugin or?
No, search web is this guy here, search with Google. And the way I figured it out is if you just do this, it actually gives you an ID somewhere that it's, look at this action ID search web. Search web action, which is the search with Google, has an action ID of search web. So yeah, and that's because I wanted it to be there, right? You don't even have to give it this the anchor, like you don't even have to give it a position.
How did you get that dialog box that you popped up just now?
So this is what I was telling you. Remember the UI inspector? Basically what you can do is you can Control-Alt-Click on a component. So let's say I wanted to know more about this action. I can just do Control-Alt-Click, but you have to enable it. And you can see this information right here. It says this is the search web, this is its action ID. And I wanted it right after the search with Google option, which is why I use this ID as my reference point. But you don't even have to do this. You can completely ignore this entire thing and it should work. Does that answer your question? Both
Yeah.
Eric and Sunny, yeah. Cool. Cool. So, okay. So if everyone's ready with their actions part of it, so you should have basically no errors in your, I don't know. There should be no errors. Okay, there should be no errors in your plugin.xml file. And you should have a action tag, which looks similar to this. You should have an ID, a class, a text, icon. You should have also been, you should also be adding this to some existing group, which is the editor pop-up menu in our case. If everyone's got to this point, then we'll go to the next section where we will be testing our plugin. And this is literally how I feel every time I'm testing my plugin. So let's see, we're going to test our plugin. The first thing you want to do is go to your IntelliJ tasks and you're going to click Run IDE. And this may take some time because this is the first time you're running it. And every, like as you do this often, it's going to save all your context and things like that. So you don't have to keep repeating it. So open, or when you run this Run IDE task, it's going to open up a new IntelliJ window with the version that you've actually added in the Gradle build.gradle file. So if you've chosen there 2019.3.3, then that's the version of IntelliJ that you'll see. If you've included community there, then that's the version you'll see. If you've included Ultimate, you'll see that version open up right now. And it'll also ask you to open a project. So you have to open some sort of a project where you can actually test this plugin. And it need not be any one particular project. It can just be whatever you have going on in your IDE. So, and then you know how to test the plugin. You know what we are looking for. Right click and see if you're able to search for text.
So, Sirisha, I have one question. I still see some errors in plugin.xml with description tags. I think that was default. Should I ignore them?
No, you could, no, I think, is description mandatory? I don't think so. But yeah, you can just give it some description, just say search in GitHub or something like that.
I did, but somehow my default ID is still showing red over there.
I think, yeah, there are some specific rules for the C data. Like
Oh,
it's gotta be more than 40 characters, and
right.
it can be the default.
Right. That's a good point, Eric. Yeah, was that Eric who answered that? Okay. Yeah, you can't basically do this. Something along those lines. And I think they do the same thing for what do you call, even for this description. Oh, was it this description that you were talking about, Neha?
Yeah, this one.
Oh,
this
yeah,
one.
that's right. Yeah, they do that. I didn't think that they did this for this part of it. Yeah, you can't. You want it to be something meaningful, right? So they want it to be a certain number of characters. Does it not tell you why it is erroring out?
Hold on.
I think if you hover on top
No.
of it, it actually tells you, because that's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what it is.
Yeah, it should tell you, like, because the length of it is.
Must not contain template text. Most HTML tags may be used.
Yeah. So if you probably used whatever they left over, so just delete all of that and add.
Yeah,
Add something
just gonna
new.
clean this up.
And I'm hoping that others are actually running your executing the Run IDE task, and let me know if it works or not.
So I'm not a Gradle user. Can you just give me a quick 2 seconds on how you got there or where that is exactly?
Oh, okay. So you should see a Gradle tool window on your right. Okay, let me go back again and put this right here. So you should see a Gradle tool window on the right.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
and
I
then
do.
Do you see your project?
I do not know. I guess that's why I was looking to go ahead and add it. I mean, that's very similar to Maven, I guess. But
Exactly. That works as the same as any other, yeah, like Maven basically. I'm a new Gradle. I'm only a Gradle user when it comes to IntelliJ plugins. So, but you could also do the reload thing. I think that it picks it up even then. You can just do the refresh or re-import. What is it called?
Okay.
Reload all Gradle projects. Just do that for a second.
All right. Let me try.
That should just pick it up as well.
When I run IDE and new IntelliJ IDE instance opened, is that expected?
Yes, you should see. Look over here. You should see a new IntelliJ window. In fact, the same version that you've given in the build.gradle file.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And the one neat thing about this IntelliJ window that it opens up is that it should only have the plugin that you were creating. You won't see any other plugins that you install. For example, I have the Sonar link right here, right? I won't be able to see this in that test window, test IntelliJ window. So it's pretty neat. It only like helps you, just get to your plugin immediately. And you can test it out,
So I see my issue. I guess I've got an exception. Gradle IntelliJ plugin requires Gradle 6.6 or higher.
Oh, is anyone else running into that issue? I actually thought, hold on, let me see.
I'm still running, but if I get it, I'll let you know.
Oh God, I hope it doesn't like fail at this crucial moment.
So you can verify before you run, right? Is there,
yeah,
I thought there was
you should
another
see
step.
Gradle 6.7 bin.zip. Do you see that?
Gradle wrapper properties.
Wrapper properties, yeah. What do you see there?
Well, I guess what was created was 5.2.1 for me.
Ooh,
So,
oh
but
okay.
it's interesting because I guess I'm on an older version. I said 21 earlier, but it's 19. So
Okay, that makes so much more sense.
yeah.
So you want to do this Gradle 6.7 bin, and what was the version of Gradle IntelliJ plugin that you used? 1.1.3?
Well, it showed up 1.1.4.
Okay.
And I bumped it down to 1.1.3, and I got that error, the 661.
Yeah. Okay. Now just do that then. Get the latest Gradle, and you'll have to repeat that process because it's going to download the Gradle binaries and all that stuff. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me also leave this up here for those who are finding where this task is. Is everyone able to find this run ID task? Has anyone got the ID to open and test out their plugin?
Yes.
My ID opened actually, so I'm creating a new project and just checking.
Yeah, you can just open an existing project, Neha. You don't even need to create a new one. Just open.
Somehow, oh, I know why it happened, because I didn't specify that I was using the paid licensed version. So it prompted me to open the community version, which was not open. So it took some time.
Okay. Okay, and you can just open, when it says welcome to IntelliJ IDE, just open one of your existing projects because we are only testing PDF.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter unless you're doing something like what I was doing with the custom language support.
So where am I expecting the plugin now?
So you tell me.
Oh, wait, hold on.
What are we testing here really? We built a plugin which is supposed to search for something
in GitLab. Oh, I have to type something.
Yeah, search for something. And where do we expect it to be seen? We want it to be on our editor pop-up menu, which is anywhere in your editor when you right click and see those options.
Got it. Yeah, let me. Oh, I do see.
You see them on GitHub?
Oh, yes. Somehow it's the search query null. Oh, I know I have made a problem, but I see the plugin. Yes, it worked.
Okay, good. Someone made me happy. Anyone else have some good news to share?
Somehow the selected text came out null, but that might be, oh, I know why it came null. Because I stopped the run ID in between and now it's running again. So some confusion, but yeah, it did work.
Okay, and we're not done yet. If you, we still have like we can still do 2 more things if everyone's up for it. But the one thing you may have noticed when your IDE came up is that when you right clicked, even if you right click on an empty space, your plugin might be visible, which is not what we want, because we always want to send in some selected text to the query, right? To the GitHub query. The way you all have it set up right now, it's not going to work, as in like it will still show up even if it is an empty, if it's not a, even if you don't have any selected text, you are still able to see the plugin. So our next task would be to hide the plugin when there is nothing in the selected text, and we are going to look into that. If
Yeah,
everyone's
because
So-
if you click on any other place and try to do a search, it will just send a null.
exactly, there is no point in that, right?
So Risa, we have about 15 more minutes. We want to save 5 minutes at the end for wrap up, the raffle, the big thing, and other announcements.
Okay, so I guess, so I know like Karim finished it. I think Eric is getting there. Neha is getting there. I'm hoping others too have at least the plugin ready. I want to see some excitement, some, hey, we got the first plugin working kind of thing.
Yeah, it's working here.
Okay, I forced it out of you. Cool, thank you.
Excitement is hard to see on Zoom.
Yeah, I know. I hate that part of Zoom. But anyway, I'm glad. So you all have your first plugin ready, which is pretty fantastic that everyone's gotten it to work in less than 40 minutes. I'm going to leave you all with just this one thing. So for additional challenges, what you basically need to do, and if you can finish it in the next 5 minutes, well and good. Otherwise, we can wrap it up. So what you're going to do is we're going to hide the plugin. So the goal here is to hide it when there is nothing selected, right? Now in your Java class where you implemented action performed, you're going to go back to that class, and now you're going to override a method called update, which is what helps with the presentation, when should the presentation be visible, when should it not be visible, and it does several other things. But for the context of this goal, we want to get the events, get presentation, and set it to some visibility. Now you already know how to get the selected text information, right? You already have that part of the code figured out. So you want to now set the presentation to be visible or not visible based on the contents of the selected text. So that's one thing that you can do. And I am going to put this on. Yes, it is a lot. I mean, yeah, I know, Karim, it is very little code, but this is also one of the simplest plugins to write. Some of the more complicated like tool window plugins and stuff like that can go, because you have to lay all the JB components, the Swing components, you have to lay them out. You have to also interact with the REST API. So it can get, this is relatively one of the easier plugins, which is why I chose it for the workshop. So yeah, you can update, you're going to update the update method, which you should be able to just use IntelliJ IDE to, I think it should look like, you should be able to just do alt insert, override methods, and just find update and action event. Yeah, that's what you're going to do. And in here, you're going to basically set the visibility of the presentation based on the selected text, for which you already know how to write that code for. So.
Wow, this wasn't so bad. This was good.
Right.
Like,
I was just telling Karim that. So this is definitely one of the easier plugins. I think it's fun. You get to see something very quickly. There is that instant gratification, and you also get to see the various things that happen. Now, when you're writing a tool window plugin, there's a different set of features that you'll end up using, different sets of APIs that you'll be using, for which there is some amount of learning. And but the Gradle part, the plugin.xml part, is sort of stuff that you already know now, and you're going to only change the in-between pieces now, hopefully. Anyone got that update part working as well? So again, you're going to go back, right, implement the update method, and then you're going to go back and hit the run IDE task again and see that it actually works as expected. So basically, you should not see the option search GitHub when you just right click on an empty space. But when you have text selected, you should see that option. So that's the goal of this task right now. Cool. Barry, I think I'm good at this point. I think I just want to show like 2 more things. So like I'll take up 2 more minutes and then I'll hand it back to you.
Sounds good. You have actually about 10 minutes if you want.
Oh, okay. So
Wait,
I just,
wait, let me check.
okay,
Yes,
Barry.
10 minutes if you want.
Okay, Barry, why don't you let me know in 5 minutes? Just
Okay.
remind me. Yeah, and I'm actually just waiting for someone to confirm if they were able to get the update part of it working as well.
Yeah, I got it working.
Perfect. And you did the run IDE task again, right?
Yes.
Perfect. And you tested those scenarios. Very good. Fantastic. So you actually have a working, like sort of close to what we've set out to do plugin. And you can also do more since Kareem, you're already there. You can actually go ahead and filter the results by programming language. And you can do that by, that was supposed to be my second task, second additional challenge. You can filter results by using this language data keys, which is also a data provider similar to common data keys. We got the editor. In this case, you can do language data keys and get the language, and you can filter the results. You can also send the programming language to the GitHub query. If you wanted to do that, you can do that as well. But that's pretty much it. I think hopefully that was fun and you all learned how to build plugins, and I'm going to wrap it up with like just two things right here. 1 second. So yeah, so just a few key takeaways from the session. Firstly, as you all saw and witnessed, plugins are written in Java language or any of the JVM languages, the Kotlin. If something that interests you, then you can try it out on Kotlin as well. Plugins are basically just small, lightweight applications. So they're no different from any other software or application that you would write. So they still have like some amount of software development life cycle. You still have to build them, push them, test them, and all of that stuff. So those are, and they are basically applications that are living within your IDE itself. So this is one of my favorite quotes by Trisha G, where she says context is queen, and IntelliJ IDE does a fantastic job of like keeping all the context together where it is applicable. But I think also being able to teach your IDE in new contexts of what you're doing, I think is a game changer. That's what I love about plugins and plugins development, because you can bring in all these contexts from places outside of your IDE and teach your IDE of these experiences, and you get a plugin out of it and your productivity increases. And if you are going to write a plugin, I would say, and you're struggling to come up with an idea of where you want to start, I would say that identify some of the common development workflows. What are some of the things that you frequently interact with? See if you're able to, bring that to your IDE. Start with something like editor pop-up menu action, things like that we've done. Start with that and then like slowly build up on, what you've already created for your first plugin. Lastly, I think, so resources, I have tons of resources over here, which you will find on my GitHub link, and I am going to share that right away. My IntelliJ Plugins demo, I'm going to share this. You should see all the resources that I've yeah, you have the IntelliJ plugins right here, and you can see all the resources that I pretty much talked about today. So you have the quick start guide, you have the different types of plugins, but they also give you an example of each of the different types of plugins that they have. You have the plugin template, which is just another way to create the IntelliJ project. Extensions explorer. So there is so many extensions that you may have a hard time trying to figure out what is the extension point, even if it is not obvious, like tool window or language inspection or whatever. So you can actually explore. They also have some amount of UI guidelines, which I find it personally really helpful because I'm not a front-end developer. But I've actually used their guidelines to figure out how best to lay out certain things. Where do you want to name? How big should your labels be? You know, they've given like lots of useful guidelines over here. So for someone coming from a back-end development experience, this was really helpful for me. Plugin configuration file, plugin.xml file. That's the file that we've been on. We've talked about actions, extensions. All these are great resources. So please check out that GitHub repository, and you can, what do you call that? Check out the resources links. But once when you're here, you can actually just walk around and see what else they've got going over there. And yes, Kareem, this is a lot like search with Google, which is why it is so much easier to just get started and see what happens. Anyway, that's it from me. I'm going to stop talking. And Barry, I'm going to hand it back to you.
And you are, yes, good,
I
excellent.
read your mind. Yeah.
Wow. I have to confess, I'm too busy back here doing things, so I couldn't follow along with everything.
That's
But I loved it. I loved it. I'm going to be tinkering with it tomorrow, maybe even tonight. Who knows?
Oh, wow.
That's
That would be
great.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. No, and I've already got some ideas for things that I want to implement. So
Yes.
we're in good shape here. All right. A couple of closing remarks. First of all, don't leave this Zoom meeting because we have an informal networking session coming right after this. And we're going to post this on YouTube next day or two, so that if you missed any part of it, or you want to recommend it to a friend, or you want to go over any parts of it, this will be available on our NYJavaSIG YouTube channel. You'll be able to see all the action and enjoy it once again. Now, in the next couple of months, we're going to do something we did earlier in the year and have a session where we do lightning talks. We haven't exactly scheduled the time yet, the date, but we'd like to hear from you if you're interested in doing a lightning talk. So if you are, please either let us know right now, let me know right now in the chat, or stick around after this formal meeting and join our informal networking session, or send us a tweet at NYJavaSIG. One way or another, we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll be seeing you soon.